Hello everyone, this is Shivangi from Education Project, and today's lesson is going to be all about symbolism. At the start of the presentation, we're going to be defining what symbolism actually is, and then we'll give you some examples of symbolism, both positive and negative connotations. After that, we'll be going through a passage and analyzing it, showing you how you can apply it into your own reading. Like always, we'll be giving you practice suggestions so that you can go back and relearn it or learn it more thoroughly. Lastly, but certainly not the least, we'll be talking about why authors actually use symbolism in their work. Before we continue, I think it's important to address a few things. Any information that is not mine will be italicized and in quotation marks. All the information given to me by the provided links will be in the description box below and in a slide towards the end of the presentation titled Bibliography. Like I've said in the past, this skill is something you will use throughout your English journey and something you will need to master fairly early so that it's not an issue later on. Having said that, you will definitely need to practice this skill, so please be proactive, write notes, go onto those practice suggestion links, do whatever you can. Symbolism is an extremely important part of your English journey, so please do practice. So, what actually is symbolism? Well, I'm glad you asked, because symbolism is when an object represents a certain theme, idea, person, and or place beyond what is literally meant. I'll read that again. Symbolism is when an object represents a certain theme, idea, person, and or place beyond what is literally meant. Let's go through some examples. I think examples are a good way of showing you how symbolism works and also giving you a firmer grasp on symbolism. It is important to mention that the object could have a positive connotation or a negative connotation. It just depends on how the author uses it in their work. Don't worry, if you're overwhelmed, we'll go through this step by step. The first example we'll be looking at is fire. Positive connotations that fire symbolizes are regeneration, rebirth, determination, passion, desire, hope. Negative connotations that fire symbolizes are anger, destruction, health, and death. Now, this is not limited to these only. The author can do a much more creative spin on it. These are just the general ones. If you're still confused, don't worry, we have another example, which is roses. Positive connotations that roses symbolizes are love, happiness, hope, joy, purity, or innocence. Negative connotations that roses symbolizes are secrecy and confidentiality. Again, it is not limited to these only. You can very much well choose to symbolize rose with something else. It just depends on what your story is and what direction you are heading in. Okay, so the passage we're going to be looking at today is The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. It is an incredible short story and I highly recommend it. It has irony, elements of irony, devastation, and it's just a beautiful read. If you want to read it, the link is there and it will be in the description box below. Without further ado, let's read this together. Mr. Martin and his oldest son, Baxter, held the black box securely on the stool until Mr. Summers had stirred the papers thoroughly with his hand. Because so much of the ritual had been forgotten or discarded, Mr. Summers had been successful in having slips of paper substituted for the chips of wood that had been used for generations. Chips of wood, Mr. Summers had argued, had been all very well when the village was tiny, but now that the population was more than 300 and likely to keep on growing, it was necessary to use something that would fit more easily into the black box. The night before the lottery, Mr. Summers and Mr. Graves made up the slips of paper and put them in the box, and it was then taken to the safe of Mr. Summers' coal company and locked up until Mr. Summers was ready to take it to the square next morning. The rest of the year, the box was put away, sometimes one place, sometimes another. It had spent 1 year in Mr. Graves' barn and another year underfoot in the post office, and sometimes it was set on a shelf in the Martin grocery and left there. Please feel free to pause if I went too fast. I know I can speak a little fast at times, so I apologize if I am, but if you do need to read this, please feel free to pause and read it at your own pace. That is completely fine. Let's go into passage analysis. Let's analyze this, shall we? Alrighty, so black box. That first sentence, let's go there. Alright. Now, black is usually associated with the danger and darkness. Black is a color which symbolizes these things. So what is it? Well, it's symbolism. Let's move on, shall we? Let's go to the second sentence where it says chips of wood that have been used for generations. Now, keyword is generations, which gives us the impression that this ritual has been going on for a long, long time. Let's keep moving on, shall we? Let's go to the last sentence where it says, the rest of the year, the box was put away, sometimes one place, sometimes another. It had spent 1 year in Mr. Graves' barn and another year underfoot in the post office, and sometimes it was set on a shelf in the Martin grocery and left there. Now, it seems to me that this box is held of significant importance, and of those who have read The Lottery by Shirley Jackson would say that this is incredible foreshadowing to what is about to come. Black box. That doesn't sound too impressionable, does it? Well, I can't really spoil this story for you, but it's definitely something you should read. And if you want to, I've already said that it's in the description box below. Let's move on, shall we? If you want to keep practicing the symbolism, please go onto these YouTube links or this Quizlet I have provided. Like always, they'll be in the description box below, so it is readily available for you. And please note that Quizlet does require you to have a Google account, so if you are underage, please ask your parents before you sign up. Now, why do authors use symbolism? Well, authors use symbolism because it adds additional meaning to an action, object, or event. It is in black and white. It adds uniqueness to the story. Now, can you imagine how boring it'd be if Rose was just Rose? It didn't symbolize anything. The stories would be the same and there'd be no uniqueness to it. There'd be no differentiation, which is something readers thrive. They thrive for differences. They thrive for something new. And a common thing why symbolism is used is because it uses the message of show instead of tell. Telling is very boring and kind of dictatorial, but when you show things, then it adds an element of creativity and adds a certain vibe to your story. Symbolism connects the story to its theme. So if the theme is danger, destruction, we can use fire to funnel that theme, to funnel that storyline. And it gives the reader a deeper connection of the text, actively engages the readers, which gives them a better attention span when reading. Now, if you can imagine someone who's read a lot of books, they're probably kind of bored with the same storyline. If you add symbolism, it'll give them it will cause them to be more attentive while they're reading, and in general be more understanding of your work. And lastly, but certainly not the least, it conveys complex messages. This is my bibliography, which will also be in the description box below. Like I always said, anything that is not written in my own words will be italicized and in quotation marks. Thank you to SlidesGo and Flaticon and FreePic for this incredible presentation. I really do appreciate you making this so that I can use it. Oh, okay guys, we've reached towards the end of the lesson. Thank you so much. Please do like, share, subscribe, and press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload. Don't forget to leave a comment down below to let us know what you think.